Words are like arrows. Once they leave your mouth, you cannot call them back, you cannot bend them mid-air. You cannot decide later that you did not mean to release them. They are already flying, already piercing, already wounding. This is something people fail to realize until it is too late. You may think you are only venting, only expressing, only saying what comes to your mind, but in that moment of unconscious speech, you may plant seeds of hurt in another's heart and disturb the balance within your own being. Every word carries a vibration. When you speak, you are not just transferring information, you are transferring energy. That energy either creates harmony or it creates disturbance. If you throw words like stones, do not be surprised if they bounce back and hit you. Have you not noticed that the sharp words you utter in anger come back to disturb you far longer than they disturb the other? You replay them in your head, you regret them, you wish you had not said them. In that moment, the arrow you shot is not only wounding the other person, it is circling back to pierce your peace as well. This is why it is said that the tongue is more dangerous than a sword. A sword can cut the body, but a careless word can scar the heart for a lifetime. Think about it, the wounds you carry in your memory. Are they mostly from swords or from words? When someone insulted you years ago, when someone said something dismissive, when someone spoke without awareness, those words still live in you, shaping the way you feel about them, shaping the way you feel about yourself. If you understand this, then you must also recognize that your own words may be living in someone else's heart in the same painful way. When you are aware of the power of your speech, you begin to value silence. Silence is not emptiness, silence is pregnant with possibilities. It is the space where your thoughts settle before they are shaped into words. If you allow that space, you will see that many things you thought were urgent to say are actually unnecessary. Words are like arrows, but silence is like the quiver that holds them in check. If you never learn to use the quiver, every emotion will become an arrow, and soon your life will be full of wounds. Yours and others. Have you noticed that when you are angry, your tongue becomes sharper than your mind? In those moments, you say things you don't even mean. Later you apologize, you explain, you justify, but the arrow has already left. Even if the wound heals, the scar remains. Many relationships carry these scars, unnecessary words spoken in heated moments. You may repair the bond, but the echo of those words remains. Would it not be wiser to hold back for a few moments, to breathe, to let silence do its work before your mouth moves? The tragedy is that most people think speaking is power. They think, I will say what I want, I will express what I feel, I will not hold back. But true power is in restraint, true power is in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. An arrow in the hands of someone unaware can harm anyone around. But the same arrow in the hands of a master archer is released only when it must be released. Words are the same. In the hands of an unconscious person, they become tools of destruction. In the hands of a conscious one, they become instruments of healing. If you want peace in your life, you must treat your words as carefully as a warrior treats his weapons. You do not draw your sword for every small provocation. You do not fire your arrows at every passing shadow. You wait, you watch, you choose. And most of the time, you will realize that the battle never needed to happen at all. In the same way, if you hold your words, you will find that most arguments, most conflicts, most bitterness dissolve before they even begin. Words are like seeds. If you plant seeds of kindness, you will grow trust and love around you. If you plant seeds of carelessness, you will harvest distrust and resentment. Every time you speak, you are sowing something. If you are careless, you will end up living in a field of thorns. But if you are conscious, you can live in a garden of peace. Which garden you live in is determined not by others, but by the way you choose your words. This is not about suppression. It is not about locking your mouth and never speaking. It is about awareness. If you must speak, let your words come from clarity, not compulsion. Let them come from calm, not chaos. Let them come from love, not anger. When words come from such a place, they do not harm, they heal. They do not create wounds, they create bridges. But when you are unaware, when your mouth runs ahead of your mind, then you are not speaking, you are shooting arrows in the dark. And arrows in the dark always end up causing unintended damage. Sometimes that damage is to others, sometimes it is to yourself, but always it disturbs peace. So remember, these words are like arrows. Do not release them unless you are ready for the consequence. Because once they are gone, they never return. Better to hold them in silence than to shoot them in haste and regret later. Many people think that silence is weakness. They believe that if you don't argue back, if you don't defend yourself at every turn, somehow you have lost. But silence is not about defeat, it is about mastery. When you choose silence, it is not because you don't have words, it is because you value your peace more than proving your point. Silence is strength, not weakness. It is the strength to remain still while the world provokes you, the strength to remain calm while noise surrounds you. Most people speak to prove themselves, to show they are right, to win the small battles of ego. But in trying to win those battles, they lose the greater war of inner peace. Have you not noticed this in your own life? You win an argument, but afterward, you feel restless, uneasy, as if something is unsettled within you. You replay the words you said, the words they said, and even in victory there is no peace. Why? Because every time you try to prove your superiority through speech, you are feeding your ego, not your well-being. The ego may feel satisfied for a moment, but your deeper self is not at rest. Silence does not mean you have nothing to say. It means you are not compelled to say it. You are free from the compulsion of reacting to everything. There is a big difference between being silent because you are afraid and being silent because you are free. Fearful silence is weakness, conscious silence is power. When you hold your tongue by choice, you are not weaker, you are in command of yourself. That is strength of the highest order because it shows that you are not driven by the noise of others but guided by the clarity within yourself. Have you observed people who are constantly talking, constantly explaining, constantly justifying? Their words are endless, but their peace is nowhere to be found. They tire themselves and they tire everyone around them. Words, when they are uncontrolled, drain your energy. Silence, on the other hand, restores it. When you choose silence, you are not wasting energy on convincing, on defending, on fighting. You are conserving your energy, and that energy becomes clarity, it becomes awareness, it becomes peace. Think of silence as a shield. When someone throws harsh words at you, if you respond immediately, you are allowing their words to penetrate you. You are letting them disturb your mind. But if you stay silent, their words have no target, no ground to land on. They fall away like arrows shot into the sky. In silence, you remain untouched. This is not weakness, it is wisdom. You are not surrendering to them. You are refusing to surrender your peace. Many conflicts in this world could end in a moment if just one person chose silence instead of retaliation. But because no one wants to appear weak, everyone keeps adding fuel to the fire, and the fire grows, burning both sides. When you understand that silence is not weakness, but the highest expression of strength, you will see that you can extinguish many fires before they even begin. Silence also gives you a deeper understanding of people and situations. When you are silent, you listen, not just with your ears, but with your whole being. You begin to notice what is really going on. Beyond the surface words, you understand the emotions behind them, the pain behind them, the fear behind them. Speech often hides the truth, but silence allows you to see it clearly. And when you see clearly, you respond with wisdom, not impulse. Some people believe that silence makes them invisible, that if they don't speak, they won't be noticed or valued. But look at the people you truly respect in your life. Is it those who talk endlessly, or those who speak rarely but with depth and weight when they do? True respect is not earned by loudness, but by presence. And presence comes from silence. Silence deepens your presence because it aligns you with yourself. When you are silent, you are not scattered in arguments and explanations, you are centered. Silence is also a teacher. If you sit silently with yourself, you begin to discover things that constant talking and constant noise will never allow you to see. You begin to see your own mind more clearly. You notice how thoughts rise and fall, how emotions come and go. You realize that you are not every passing thought. You are not every passing emotion. You are the awareness in which they arise. This realization comes only in silence. Noise outside creates noise inside. Silence outside allows silence inside. And in that inner silence, peace is natural. But people are afraid of silence. They think silence is emptiness, silence is boring. So they fill every gap with words, with noise, with distraction. Yet the more they fill, the emptier they feel. True fullness comes only in silence, because in silence you connect with the depth of your being. And once you are rooted there, no noise from outside can shake you. When you learn to embrace silence, you stop being a victim of other people's words. You stop reacting to every provocation. You stop wasting your energy trying to prove yourself. Instead, you stand in a place of strength that no argument, no insult, no noise can disturb. That is real freedom, the freedom of not being controlled by others, the freedom of being at peace regardless of the situation. So, do not mistake silence for weakness. It is the greatest strength you can have. To remain silent when you could speak, to remain calm when you could react, to remain peaceful when the world provokes you. That is mastery. Shut your mouth before you destroy your peace. Most people imagine battles as something that happen with swords, guns, or armies. They think wars are fought on fields with weapons in hand. But if you observe carefully, you will see that most battles in life do not begin with a sword. They begin with a tongue. Words are sharper than blades. A single careless word has started more wars, broken more families, ended more friendships, and created more distance between people than any weapon ever has. When you look at your own life, the greatest pain you carry probably did not come from someone striking you physically, it came from someone's words. Perhaps a harsh insult, a humiliating remark, a careless criticism. It lingers inside you far longer than a physical wound ever would. A physical wound heals in days or weeks, but the wounds made by words can stay for decades. And what is tragic is that most people do not even realize the damage they cause with their tongues until it is too late. When we say most battles are born from tongues, not swords, it means that the source of conflict in this world is rarely physical to begin with. It is verbal. One person says something thoughtless, another person reacts, and soon a chain of retaliation begins. Small words become large arguments become hostility, and hostility becomes conflict. If you trace it back, you will find that the root was just a moment of unconscious speech. The tongue has no bone, but it is strong enough to break a heart. That is its power. Yet we treat speech casually, as if it has no consequences. We say whatever comes to mind, thinking we are just expressing ourselves. But expression without awareness is destruction. You might think you are only venting frustration, but your words may ignite a fire in someone else that neither of you can put out. Look at the world around you. Nations go to war not because one morning they suddenly felt like fighting, but because words piled up, accusations, threats, provocations until the swords followed. On a smaller scale, families break apart not because of swords but because of repeated words. Words of neglect, words of insult, words of blame. Even friendships that once seemed unshakable dissolve over a few careless sentences. The sword only finishes what the tongue has already begun. Have you ever noticed how quickly an atmosphere changes when someone speaks with harshness? A room may be filled with laughter, but one cruel comment can silence everyone. That is how powerful speech is. It can either create harmony or destroy it in a moment. And yet, most people handle this power with less care than they handle a matchstick. With a matchstick, you are careful not to drop it near fuel. But with words, you drop them carelessly into people's hearts, not realizing how flammable they are. The real mastery of life is not in learning how to fight battles well, but in learning how not to create them in the first place. And for that, you must understand the weapon you carry in your mouth. Knowing when to speak and when not to speak is one of the highest forms of wisdom. Because sometimes the most powerful way to win is not by defeating the other, but by not starting the war at all. But people are quick to react. The moment they feel provoked, their tongue runs ahead of their mind. They say things they don't mean, and later they try to fix it with apologies, with explanations. But apologies cannot always erase the damage. Once an arrow has left the bow, you cannot recall it. Once a word has left your mouth, you cannot pull it back. The wound is already there. This is why restraint is essential. It is not that you should never speak. Words, when used with awareness, can heal, can inspire, can create unity. They can resolve conflicts instead of starting them. But for this, you must hold your tongue until you are certain your words are not arrows but bridges. This is the discipline most people lack. They think speaking quickly is cleverness, they think responding immediately is strength. But true strength is in patience, in waiting, in letting silence pass through you before the words come out. If you want peace in your relationships, if you want peace in your own heart, you must begin to see your tongue as the sharpest weapon you possess. Because if you are careless with it, you will cut not only others but also yourself. Every argument you start through words also disturbs you. You lose your calm, you lose your sleep. You replay the conversation again and again in your mind. So, who is the real loser? Not just the other person, you too. Imagine how much peace could exist in the world if people understood this simple truth. Most battles are unnecessary, and most of them are born from the tongue. If people paused before speaking, if they chose words that healed instead of hurt, if they allowed silence to cool their anger before they opened their mouth, the world would look completely different. Your personal world would look completely different. The choice is always with you. You can use your tongue like a sword, cutting down everyone in your path, including yourself. Or you can use it like a bomb, soothing wounds, creating peace. But for that, you must first learn to shut your mouth when anger rises, when ego wants to speak, when impulse pushes you to react. If you can master that moment, you can master many battles before they even begin. So, remember this: most battles are born from tongues, not swords. Shut your mouth before you destroy your peace. Peace is something every human being longs for. You may want success, you may want wealth, you may want recognition, but if you look deeper, all of it is only because you think it will bring you peace. The tragedy is, people go on searching for peace in the wrong places. They try to control the world, control people, control circumstances, thinking that if everyone behaves the way they want, life will be peaceful. But life does not work like that. You cannot control every tongue, every thought, every action in this world. The only thing you can truly master is yourself, and it is this mastery that brings peace. When you don't have mastery over yourself, the smallest thing disturbs you. Someone says a word and your mind is restless. Someone gives you a look and your heart is unsettled. Someone disagrees and you are boiling inside. In such a state, peace will always be a distant dream, because your peace depends on others, and others will never behave exactly the way you wish. If your peace is at the mercy of other people's words and actions, then you have handed over the key to your well-being into someone else's pocket. They don't even know they have it. But you have already given it away. Mastery of the self begins with mastery of the tongue. When you can restrain your words, when you do not feel compelled to react to every provocation, you are protecting your peace. It does not mean you suppress yourself. It means you choose consciously what is worth saying and what is not. Most of what you want to say in moments of anger or irritation is not truth. It is just reaction, and reactions never bring peace. Conscious responses do. Imagine if every time someone provoked you, you chose silence instead of reaction. Imagine if every time someone insulted you, you smiled inwardly and refused to let it disturb you. Who wins then? If you lash back, maybe your ego feels a moment of victory, but your inner harmony is broken. If you stay still, your ego may feel defeated, but your being remains untouched, your peace remains whole. So the question is, do you want the small victory of ego or the great victory of peace? Peace is not the absence of noise around you, it is the absence of disturbance within you. That means the real battle is not about controlling others, but mastering your own inner process. If your tongue can move only when your awareness allows it, you are free. If your tongue moves before your awareness, you are a slave to your impulses. A slave can never be peaceful, but a master always is. Think of it like fire. Fire is a powerful force. It can warm your home, it can cook your food, it can light your way. But if you do not contain it, the same fire will burn your house down. Speech is like that. If you control it, it can create beauty, it can spread love, it can inspire peace. If you lose control, it will consume your peace, it will burn your relationships, it will destroy the very harmony you are seeking. Mastering yourself is not about being passive or silent forever. It is about becoming so conscious that even when you speak, your words come from clarity, not compulsion. They come from awareness, not reaction. In such moments, your words do not disturb peace, they deepen it. People can feel the difference. Words born of compulsion carry the vibration of disturbance, but words born of clarity carry the fragrance of peace. But this is only possible if you stop trying to control the world outside and turn your attention inward. Ask yourself, why does someone else's opinion disturb me so much? Why do I feel the need to argue? Why do I want to prove myself right at every turn? If you observe closely, you will see it is not about truth, it is about ego. The ego wants to be seen, to be validated, to be superior. But peace is not an achievement of ego. Peace comes only when you step beyond ego, when you no longer need to prove yourself through words or reactions. When you have mastery over yourself, you can walk into chaos and still remain calm. You can hear insults and still remain untouched. You can see provocation and still choose silence. That is true strength, that is true freedom, because in that state, no one can take away your peace. You are no longer at the mercy of the world. You have become the master of your own inner world. This does not mean life becomes empty or dull. On the contrary, it becomes full. When you are no longer disturbed by every passing word, you can experience life more deeply. You can listen more fully, you can see more clearly, you can love more completely. Peace gives you the space to live life in its richness. Without peace, even the best moments are spoiled by inner noise. With peace, even the ordinary moments become profound. So, if you truly want peace, stop trying to manage everyone else's tongue and start managing your own. Stop trying to control the world outside and start mastering the world within. Because when you master yourself, you do not need to fight battles with others. You simply walk through life untouched, carrying peace with you wherever you go. Shut your mouth before you destroy your peace.